everyone, today we are going to be working on a nose touch, so it's a hand touch with their nose onto our hand. I'm going to show you the bare basics and then I'm going to show you how to develop it, so to get a duration on it for veterinary procedures and things like that. Hand touches are amazingly helpful for moving your dog around without having to physically move them, so it's great for puppies, it's great if you've got children in the house. You never ever want a child forcibly manipulating a dog into doing anything, so hand touch would be the first thing I teach children around dogs. It's also great if you've got a dog of a certain size. If your recall is your hand touch cue, you can literally just stick your hand out, teach a duration, click the lead on, off you go, whilst the dog is holding their nose onto your hand the whole time. For smaller dogs that doesn't really work so much because you've got to be bent down the whole time, but you can use alternatives. So I like taking a wooden spoon down my wellies and teaching a nose target to the end of that. That's always really nice. Good boy, stay. But there is no end of uses for a hand touch. They are fantastic for pretty much everything. Recall, lucid walking, heel work if you're getting into any sports. You need it for that nice fancy head position and trot. And it is, I personally use it more for the veterinary behaviour side of things, which I'm going to show you today. So just to demonstrate, I'll show you what a hand touch is with Pumbaa. Touch. Yes, good. So that's a basic hand touch. A more sustained one is touch. Yes, nice job, buddy. That's beautiful. Okay, we're going to pop you back down here. Down, stay. So, to teach a basic hand touch, you're going to hold your hand out flat. You're not going to move it around or wave it at all. If your dog ignores your hand, then we will teach you how to sort that out. But your basic hand touch, hand out flat, dog touches their nose to your hand, mark and feed. When you present your hand, you're not going to shove it in your dog's face. If I walked up to you on the street and just shoved my hand in your face, you wouldn't move into it. You would be like, whoa. So you want to give the dogs plenty of space to move into your hand rather than just shoving it in their face. So if this is the dog's face, your hand's going to be about here on either side, so it can kind of be within this semicircle rather than any closer. Make sure you practice it with both hands. But to start with, kind of pick one and go with that. I tend to practice it with my right, and I'm always getting in trouble with my obedience instructor because I actually need it on my left. And my left is a little bit weaker. So do make sure that you're practicing it with both hands pretty equally. So to start, you are literally going to hold your hand there, wait for the dog to touch. If they touch, you mark and feed. If they don't, what you can do is lots of fast repetitions with a small bit of food in between your fingers. As soon as they touch that, you click, open your hands so they get the treat. You want to do kind of 10 of those really quickly, take the food away, and then click or mark if they then take the treat. You can also rub like cheese or hot dog or whatever meat you've got laying around on your hand, something nice and smelly, so that they're going to come and investigate your hand to see it. But give them a good 15 seconds. So hold your hand there, stare at your hand, stare a hole into the middle of your hand, because they're going to look at where we're looking. So I'm going to show you an example with Pumbaa, bearing in mind he's a trained dog, but it should work the same. Yes, nice. If I stare at my hand, he's going to look at me and think, there's something good about that hand. I don't know what it is, but there's something good. Touch. Touch. Down. Good boy. So you saw there I used the hand touch to get him into the place I wanted him rather than in front of the camera. Stay. And it's really helpful for things like that. But make sure you're giving the dog the time to actually look at or to investigate the hand rather than presenting it, getting bored, taking it away, giving it again. You want to make sure that you're presenting it, bam, holding it there, staring into the middle of it. So if you were burning a hole in the middle of your hand, that's where the hole would be. And then if you're stuck, then you can add that treat or rub your hands in something smelly and give that a go. I hope that makes sense. You've kind of already seen that with Pumbaa, but I'll show you very quickly. Bear in mind he does know this very well and he is a trained dog with it though. Touch. Yes. Yes. So that's your basic one. Yes. Yes. And the other hand. Yes. Good job, buddy. Wasn't very fair of me. Yes. So once your dog's got the hang of it, start to present your hand in different locations. So yes, above their head, slightly to the side of them. Yes, nice. And then start making them move further, yes, in order to get the treat. Yes. So this is where you can start to see the applications of it for a recall. So he's getting a little bit stuck there, so yes. That's where looking into your hand becomes really, really helpful. Yes. Yes. So you see here, I'm not asking, yes, for much duration. We're going to start working on that now. So for duration, you first want to get a few touches in a row, which he's now not going to do because he does know a duration hand touch. Yes. So when you are asking for 2 touches, I wouldn't necessarily move my hand for the next one. When I'm first starting to teach it, I would hold my hand there, wait for the dog to touch. They would come off because that's what they've been taught. Good boy. And then they'd go back on, hoping to make you give them the treat again. So I'd hold my hand still, but because Pumbaa knows to touch it once and stay there, I'm moving my hand back so he's having to touch again. Yes, lovely. So when you have kind of 3 touches, so you can hold your hand there and the dog goes on, comes off, goes on, comes off, goes on, comes off 3 times. Don't worry anymore about building more numbers of the behaviour. Start to focus on increased intensity, essentially. So you'll start to realise, and I'll see if I can get Pumbaa to show you this in a second, that your dogs are coming in harder and actually moving your hand rather than just kind of lightly touching it. Those ones are the ones you're going to want to reward. Or if they're kind of going on, coming off, looking at you being like, what the hell are you doing? Going on. And then you get a go on, come off, go on. So the duration between the 2 repetitions has decreased. Reinforce those really, really heavily. So focus on either decreased duration or increased intensity. So I'll see if I can get Pumbaa to show you that now. I'm going to have to get him a little bit G'd up, so I'm going to throw some treats around. Of course, I throw one immediately under something. Ready, get it? Yes. So you saw there, he actually went on, came off, and then went back on and stayed there. So that would have been one I reinforced. And if he'd been waiting a little while between the 2 touches, yes, nice. So that's what you would be looking for if you're doing multiples. And now we'll see if we can build it up to having him, yes. So that was slightly more intense. Yes, and that is exactly what I wanted there. So that little push of I'm on it, give me the treat, that is what you're then going to start reinforcing over the kind of weaker touches. Yes, good boy. So you can see that Pumbaa's been reinforced for that really, really heavily. And even if he's staying there, he knows that that is what I want him to do. More intensity and stay there, please. Yes, good lad. So once you've got a duration like that, you can start developing some veterinary behaviours in there. So you can start teaching the concepts of that. I'm going to demonstrate very quickly with the chin rest because that is what actually Pumbaa has all of these behaviours on with his chin rest. And a chin rest is just where he puts his chin on your hand. And then I'm going to show you, and this will be Pumbaa's second ever training session on this, show you how to start teaching it within the hand touch. Get it? So with the chin rest, sit, head down, nice. So once you've got that duration, you're going to start to build up the distraction level. So you're going to start to flick a finger, yes. If your dog stays on your hand, you're going to feed. And you're going to build up finger by finger. So there, because I know Pumbaa, I know I can kind of do like a little jazz hand, and I know he'll stay on my with his chin on my hand. But ideally, you want to start building it up a finger at a time, yes, until you can do that whole jazz hand. Yes. So if he were to come off my hand at any point, that is when I would stop moving. So he is either frozen on my hand and I'm moving, or he's moving and I'm frozen waiting for him to go back onto my hand. It's really important that you do that so that the finger wiggling becomes the cue to stay doing what you're doing, and you will get food eventually. But it is the cue to kind of keep going with what they're doing rather than come off. And if we teach it this way, you can use that for anything. So let's say down. Sorry, I just don't want him to start getting frustrated with treats. Let's say your dog had recently, and I had this with Pumbaa, he ripped a claw off, and he's always been really good with his paws. I can touch them, do whatever I needed to. So I didn't spend any time on it really, but all of a sudden he needed his paws washing 3 times a day. He had to have bandages changed. He actually went and had surgery on it. And it was so much easier teaching him that when he knew that this over him in whatever position his head was on meant stay there, you'll get food. So it meant that whilst the training was really urgent, I can actually build it up quite quickly because he knows that that means stay doing what you're doing, because of the work I had done. So although I hadn't done work on the behaviours I needed, it was very, very quickly to get them up to a usable level without him stressing it out too much. So that's why I love teaching this method, because as soon as if your dog gets an ear infection, I can instantly head down. Sorry, mate, that's all right. So that's where I pushed it a little bit too far, made him jump, but instantly you can teach, head down. That's all right, head down. Good boy, good boy. Yes, nice. So you can start to warm up to those behaviours. Pumbaa has had problems with ear infections, so I definitely pushed that too far, but you can build up to those increments of the behaviour you're after. So I'm going to show you how to do that with the hand touch now, and this will be a brand new training session to Pumbaa. It won't be a nice finished polished behaviour. So we're going to give it a go. Okay. Touch. Yes. So if you're teaching this concept to your dog for the first time, I would literally just flick a finger. So he's come off, so I'm frozen. Yes, nice. And the second he goes back on, we'll feed that. And you see I'm not actually touching him yet. Yes, little bit of confusion there because he thought the waggle hand was another hand touch cue. And I don't touch him. Good lad. Good. Until I can go over his whole body for a good minute or so without touching him. Yes. And get him used to the behaviour. So when I'm doing this sort of training, I always like to add in a get it, a toss away treat. Touch. Leave. Touch. Yes. Just to assess how much the dog is enjoying what I'm teaching. So if we are working on something that's painful for them and actually they don't want to carry on with it, if you've tossed a treat far away and they're slow coming back to you, then actually they're saying, I'm not super keen on this. If they're instantly, like you can see with Pumbaa, just doing the touch, coming back, getting the treat, coming back straight away, exactly the same, then you know they're pretty happy and you can carry on as you were. Touch. Leave. Touch. Good. So I kind of give myself a limit of 3 repetitions, then throw a treat away and reset that way. Touch. Good job. Good. Good. So once your dog's happy with that, you can then touch them. Yes. And it's really important there that you try not to make them jump, and you use a normal touch pressure. So you don't want to be going in, touching them so lightly that they think you're a fly and then twitch in order to get you off, or move in order to get you off. You don't want to hurt them or touch them so hard that it's a massive surprise and they're a little bit like, ah. You really, really just want to touch them with the right pressure, normal touch. And from here you can build it up into a nice, yes, scruff grab for an injection. Touch. Yes. And you see I'm always trying to start in the same way, so I'm not suddenly starting, thanks bud, on the back of his body. I'm starting from pretty much the top of his head each time. Yes, lovely mate. Nice job. Nice job. So I hope that helps, guys. Let me know. As always, you're very welcome to share your training and ask for some help, or you can just have a go and let me know how you get on. I really, really love to see other people training. Good luck with it.